So that was the tweet that got me started with ABAP, not with ABAP, with SAP Cloud Application Programming Model. So DJ Adams actually in July tweeted out this, "I'm in the future." He said, yeah, CDS. And I was curious, what is this CDS? And I know CDS from ABAP. And I just dig into and went to my command line and did something like this, npm install at sap/cds. And when you do that, you will install the CDS command line tools on your computer. Actually not when you do it this way, because I already have it on my system. So follow instructions which I will point you to. So let's first give you also a glimpse, what is this all about? There is one central block from the chief architect of the Cloud Application Programming Model, Daniel Hutzel. He gave also a talk at TechEds, so look for his presentations and go through this block here. So first of all, what you do with what? You will define your data models in CDS. And you can deploy that to HANA, but not only to HANA. In the meantime, you can now also just work locally and use SQLite as your local persistence. So you don't need this big HANA box or some cloud infrastructure. You can be on a train, not completely offline, because when you start such a project, it will download NPM packages from the internet. So you need to have some connectivity, but then for your development, you don't need that. You will define your services also in CDS, so you will not leave this environment, and the services will define OData services. So after you've defined your data model, your service, you have a running API which you can already use. And you can add custom business logic. In the moment, it's then in Java or Node.js, and this later on is already outdated. It's there. You can use it, and there are demos which you can get from GitHub. And which nobody answered to me at TechEd, because I asked them, hey, where are the annotations for my UIs? Nobody said, no, I don't know, they will be coming. No, they are actually also there. Unfortunately, all the services are provided as OData v4, and when you use the web ID, there is only one template which supports OData v4 already. The rest is all based on OData v2. Yeah, and to sum it up, or to make it like you can make compositions, or how do we call that when you have a combination of different technologies? You can include in your newly built application or in your newly service, you can also include data from backend systems. So you can have one service interface that has your local persistence, but then also some entities, like for example a material master data, comes directly from the backend and is just proxied by your application layer, by your service layer. And so these are the parts, and you also define this via CDS. So just one thing to distinguish is there is now 3 application programming models from SAP. The ones who attended the CodeJam yesterday learned about the ABAP programming model for SAP Fiori. That is now very mature programming model used for S4, using mainly then BOPF when you go into your business logic implementation. The next kid on the block in the ABAP side is the ABAP RESTful programming model, which is for BOPF. I would call it more an evolution into native language artifacts. So you don't have a lot of generated code anymore. It's getting into language artifacts, and you can try that out in the cloud edition we have access to. And then there is also official documentation for working with the ABAP application programming model available on help.sap.com in the Cloud Platform area. And from here, you will find some tutorials links, but what I highly recommend is using these examples which are hosted on GitHub. There is an SAP GitHub account, and there is a cloud sample spaceflight. That is the basic data model, which represents all the entities which are used in these demos. And what you will have from here, links to different implementation possibilities, like, for example, and that will be my guiding thing, using the cloud sample spaceflight node. So the implementation of this in Node.js. And I will use that as my guideline, because there is here a nice exercise thing, and with estimated time, and that is actually the correct way to get started, to install the CDS library globally for my user. So as soon as I do that, I can now call CDS, which is a command line tool and provides you also some help what you can do with it. And I will start now with this. I also install another tool just to make sure I have the latest and greatest versions. It was updated in some way. And now let's go npm. First do a clear npm new. And to continue the example from yesterday, what we did in ABAP, we will do a sales order application. So I'm not the developer evangelist. I don't do fancy stuff. I do business stuff. And hopefully, I just typed wrong. I don't want to install anything more. I just want to CDS. And I got an error. Okay. I destroyed my installation. So npm. Let's do an update here first and hope it fixes it. What was the error message? And if it doesn't fix, we will look at the error messages. No. Generator, update wrong package, error, CDS, generator CDS, but still can't resolve it. Try install, okay. Good, let's try to install it here. That's really breaking all my stuff. Okay, and let's try it again. Yeah, here we go. Good. There is a wizard. Text-based, but there is a wizard. Really nice. I can select the UI module, but it doesn't work yet. I select the database and the service module, and I go for Node.js, right? Because that is a lot faster. I don't have to compile anything, so quick development cycles. So half of the internet is downloaded for this project now, and finally it will create a new folder, and I go into this folder, sales orders. And from here on, I go with some tool. Somebody will hate, some others will love, because Microsoft has really a nice editor now. And SAP provides for Visual Studio Code an integration for CDS. So there is syntax checks, there is code completion for CDS in Visual Studio Code. So get it as it's instructed here in the tutorial, and then you can start coding in Visual Studio Code. And we see our project structure. So we see one folder was created DB, that contains all the DB stuff, and one folder is server, which contains all the rest. And to make it possible to start local development, we have to do some small adjustments. And the small adjustment is to include some additional libraries which I need. And libraries are defined in Node with the package JSON. And this package JSON, I have to extend a little bit. And to make this smoother, I just will copy from my preparation. So I include Express, which is an HTTP server written in Node. I include CSV to JSON, which helps me to pre-populate my tables. And I include SQLite, so the database which will be my local persistence. And to make SQLite my default data store, I add here in the CDS data area also this driver, SQLite, and a name for my database file. SQLite is a file-based database which will be created here. Good, let's save that. And via view terminal, I can also add here a terminal. So I can work just from one workspace. And let's get back to the instructions, because that is all documented here, all the steps in very detail. So try it on your way home, on the train, hopefully not on the car, if you're the driver. And let's do this npm install. So in the project, I've changed the package JSON. Do now the npm install. Did I press enter? No. And it's another half of the internet is downloaded. And I have these additional packages which I need. Good. And now let's go. I can try. It looks good, but perhaps we have now some bandwidth problems. Yeah. So if somebody wants to go to the stream, go to the Cadaxo YouTube channel and click there. It should be live there. Yeah. So we can Cadaxo. Here we go. This doesn't have any content. Okay, interesting. It was working before, but the recording is running, so don't care. Good. So now we have to define our data model. So we installed all some stuff, and our data model, I will do a copy paste because coding up is always difficult, especially if live. So let's go into DB. Let's go into data model. And replace, there's something which is put in by default, a bookstore with one entity, and I put another entity in, but I'm missing something which I want to include here, using. So there is here this common thing. That is something I've prepared. Also, where is it? When I can scroll up to it. Here we are, common CDS. Let's go into DB and copy it. So now this is solved. What do I do here? SAP provides also via NPM some CDS common data definitions. What do they do? For example, here in the admin data, when I go to this definition, I see that this contains modified at, created by, modified by, and contains already the statements to populate that. So you don't have to care about writing that in your definition manually and taking care about all the updating stuff. It's taken care of you as long as you include that into your data models. And that's what I do here. I have this managed stuff, do some standard definitions, just save it. Nope, don't save. And at the end, I go into my, where is it? Too much open, DB, data. Oops, it was gone. Come on. Let's get it back from data model. So, here we go. So, good, and I use this here because my entities are now inheriting from the standard definition, and I add just my my columns that I want to be stored and that represent my business problem. So I don't care about the administrative stuff, I only care about the business problem. Good, and that I do also for the items, and the link between the sales order items is here an association. So I have my sales order ID as a field which is an association to the sales order, which is this object here. And I can also define that from here, from the sales order, I have an association to many sales order items and define the key for that. So that is my data definition now, linking also header info to the item info. Good, let's store that and populate the database. I will not go through the steps to do a CSV population. Have a look at the example. There's some JSON which will pre-populate your data. As soon as you, at the end, put in the CDS deploy, which I will use here in the command line. And this created now a database file, this sales order DB. And there is a plugin for Visual Studio Code, and via the command palette, I can open now this SQLite Explorer and can drill down into the database, and that is the actual tables which were created by just the command CDS deploy. So it created my database, not populated any data, but I have now a persistence. Persistence layer, check. Now, let's switch over to the service layer. There is a My Service CDS, also predefined for this bookstore. And let's replace that with my data definition, because I have another namespace and I have two entities. One entity is sales orders, is a projection on this sales order data definition, and another is the sales order items. I tried out something fancy, but I have not seen any result of these annotations. That would be the same as we did in ABAP yesterday, to have some fields searchable in full text. And I would think that it's not supported in SQLite. Perhaps we have to put in Elastic to support that. Good, so that is my service definition. And now comes the most interesting part, because there is then CDS, serve all. And now I have a working API. So let's click this link. And here I have my service with metadata generated for me in OData v4, with some also already UI annotations, and with working endpoints in the moment without any actual data. So how can I fill some data into this? There is a nice UI for that. Hopefully you know, when you're working with OData services, there's Postman. Because of a missing UI for, or the generated UI, I use the bare level tools, go for Postman. So I can now create a sales order. And let's try something which I haven't prepared, because this is now the not so nice stuff, because I create the header first, and then I create the items afterwards. Let's try something fancy. I go also for my items creation, and let's copy this part into here, and put in here sales order items, I would think, and put that in. Is there a pretty print? Nope. But let's do the pretty. Beautify, where was it? Here we go. So, beautified. Okay, we made it worse. Good, and let's see if that deep insert works. Just to try. So the sales order items was written correctly. Let me check. Yep, and send it. Oh, bad request. Okay, so let's skip that and do it in the way I've prepared it yesterday. Yeah, could be. So let's put in here some brackets like this. But at the end, it should be an object in there. Or? Let's try with that. Send. Internal server, or even worse. Good. No, it's a good idea. Good. So let's try it as I prepared, because now I have something, status created. Now where's the, move it up, here we go. Now, something created. And let's check in the browser, refresh. I have my first sales order in here. And let's post some sales order item, send it, and some headers created also here. And yeah, who knows OData stuff? There is here expand, and there is a new one I've just tried out yesterday, star, expand everything. I have my working sales order header with item data. And not with this, all the crap which we have in OData v2, which is just bloating our documents, and that is really nice. Yeah, that's what I wanted to show, and I can just really engage you. Look into it. My request to SAP, if still someone listens, is unfortunately there is only these tutorials are very good. Oh, yeah, the last thing I forgot was you can also put in Fiori annotations. So let's copy paste that into my service. Fiori annotations. Now in here, I restart the server, and with the restart, I have a new metadata definition, and that contains now also some line, no, not the line item. Here we go, property, no, that's the annotation, searchable. It wasn't recognized. Here we go, annotate sales orders. Now, and you see in the code completion, it's also, no, sales order, so that is my service. And now let's restart again, and we should see some changes here. Yep, and now we have presentation variant, sort order, and where are our columns? Here we are. Line items, so these are defining which columns of my data are shown in the table when you use Fiori elements for that. Okay, yeah, I engage you, try it out. Unfortunately, there is documentation is missing. There's just one random guy who pulled the NPM repository of SAP, and here in the APIs, you find, for example, also CDS, and have some really nice readmes and also the change log. Unfortunately, here is updated, this is 3 months ago, and there is in the moment now version 2.9 something out already. I can just hope that SAP makes the npm.sap.com something more friendly, because in the moment they just go away, you have to use npm for this website. Just put the documentation, whatever, out there. We want to use it. Yeah, please. Picture. Good, that's all. Questions?
Any question?
If not.
What are use cases you see for the cloud for this model?
So I see more like something like you go for prototype stuff, really just something, an app which nobody yet thinks it's really a use case. Perhaps you just want to go quickly and have something and build a prototype which actually has some backend. Because you've seen defining your entities, defining your service, and you quickly have an API which others can use to persist data. And the next step would be go from local into the cloud platform, Cloud Foundry, which everyone also from you can try and deploy it there. And I think it for quick new applications, tryout, prototypes, that is my first approach. I think it's still, I haven't tried it, how robust and the rest it is. But SAP positions it also to abstract all these cloud native development complexities, abstracts that from you, and you have the CDS as the definition, and the rest is taken care by the framework to have a scalable application cloud ready.
Hey, any more question?
The logic, yeah, there is the possibilities to put in your custom logic. When you go into this example here, you see there is in the service, there is besides the CDS, you find also a booking service JS. And this is actually then, you get some hooks and you define by convention, you define that is the entity when this one is getting created, then you do some checks. For example, here you check that there can be not more than 5 here. So check for the 5 passengers. So not more than 5 passengers. And if this error occurs, it will throw an HTTP error with some nice looking error message. So very RESTful react to the user's intent with some error messages. So that is where your business logic is implemented.
Can you just quickly summarize all 3 data models?
All 3, all programming models, yeah. So there's the one, most mature in the ABAP area, was gone into production with 7.50, but matured then with each release of NetWeaver. So it's an ABAP programming model for Fiori, where you use CDS and BOPF for your backend, and Fiori UI5 applications as your front end. And you use these annotations if you want to use, or if you want to have quickly built UI5 applications, then you annotate your services, and then your UI is just built automatically. The second one, coming with the SAP Cloud Platform ABAP environment, or also called Steampunk, is the ABAP RESTful programming model. That's the evolution of the one we've seen here, the ABAP programming model for Fiori. And the new kid on the block, mainly intended for cloud use cases, but from Thomas Young I also heard that this programming model can at the end, or with the latest release of HANA, can also deploy it in the HANA XS Advanced environment. Because HANA XS Advanced is frankly just Cloud Foundry on-premise, or Cloud Foundry packaged in HANA. So this model will also apply if you use HANA native development in XSA.
Okay.
I was 2 weeks ago at the Insight Track in the Netherlands, and André Fischer presented the other one, the RAP thing.
Yeah.
And he said that the strategy is to move away and build agnostic services. So you model your data without annotation for UI and without this coupling. Because right now you have a business coding there, but you're throwing an HTTP exception, and this maybe should be one level above. He said that they define now the service, and then you map the service to an OData interface.
Yeah.
And this seems like one way to go on the ABAP, and on the other hand, on this one, it goes completely the opposite. And
well, but I think that is a RESTful way, or to have HTTP responses when something in your business logic fails. It's not a 500 error, it's a 400. There's something.
yeah, but for example, in Java, when you throw, you have the business logic, it doesn't care about HTTP. You have abstractions towards the interface and abstraction towards the database, and you don't have to couple them together, because then you create a dependency.
I think I can't answer that.
As you said, for prototyping, it's really nice and fast. But
there is also examples for the Java. Have a look in it, how they decouple there. One thing which I was in this 4 hours hands-on at TechEd, where they shown a bigger Java example with backend connectivity, and that was in the moment completely so much boilerplate code because you have to define in the CDS the entity, then again as a Java entity, and on another place again, and that is bullshit.
On one hand, but on the other hand, it allows you some flexibility to change the
Yeah.
data source.
Yeah.
Yep, thanks.
Good. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Oop.